Okay, I'm here with my buddy Penguin. Now this isn't a video for Ellie, but the video that we shot with Ellie got corrupted, so we're refilming this video with the help of my good friend Francis, who's gonna be doing some fine camera work for us. Now Ellie does not like going a certain direction on the walks. Ellie's a little bit of an older dog, and she likes to really go on, come here. I was thinking about to call you Francis. Ellie likes to go on the original walk that her guardian took her, which is a longer walk. So essentially going that way. The problem with going that way is Ellie, because she's older and she gets tired and has a little bit of arthritis, halfway on that walk, which makes it twice as long, is too much for her. And then she just kind of sits down and just likes to observe because it's probably a little bit much for her. So what we want her to do is instead go the direction her guardian wants to go, which is just to go around the block and turn a corner instead of crossing the street. Now, Ellie's in a habit of just going in that direction, and she probably enjoys going in that direction, even though there's a dog over there that spooks her. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna show you a couple techniques that you can use. Now, I've got one of these tricks laid out on the street, and I'll talk about that one second. First thing we're gonna do is just get it. This is called a follow me game. Here you go, Penguin. Pingy, come here. Pingy. Now, what I don't wanna do is I don't wanna pull the dog. Excuse me, Pingy. Pingy. Let's move this over here. All right, Pingy. So I'm going to touch the dog's lips with a treat and then take a step back and say good, which is her marker word. Pinky. Good. Now, if we can imagine, now Pingy sometimes is particular with treats, so we're going to use the, and that's a good point. So if you're going to use, if you're doing this, you need to make sure you're using treats that your dog likes. I have an alternative treat here that I know Penguin really likes. Pinky. And there we go. So when you're doing this, if the treat isn't strong enough for the dog to do it, then to be interested in, that doesn't really matter. So let's say that that this is Ellie, and instead of Ellie wanting to go here, we go to the corner. We're just going to practice. We're going to do this and say, come. Good. And give her the treat. Then I show her I have another one. Good. Yeah, you can't have the treats on the ground quite yet. She saw me putting the treats there. Now, what we want to do is when we're on an actual walk, we're kind of thinking, I want to walk. And so we're in the process, or our mindset is to keep on going. Well, in this case, what we want to do is we want to help Ellie practice turning at this corner instead of crossing the street. So what I'd like the guardian to do is grab about a dozen treats, go to that corner, and instead of planning on going for the full walk, all you're going to do is go to that corner, and you're going to do this exercise. Penguin. So you're going to, when you get to the point where normally she wants to go that way, you're going to hold a treat to her nose. Good. And then release a treat. Hold another one. Good. Release the treat. And you're going to walk around, so you take about 10 steps in the direction after you've turned instead of crossing the street. Then when you do that, I want you to come right back over here. No, Pingy, you can't have that one yet. I'm pulling her because I don't want her to have the treats, but normally you shouldn't pull your dog on a leash. So what we're going to do is we're going to basically help the dog practice doing this turn and get into a habit of doing it. So you're just basically going to hold the treat to her lips first to get her coming, lower the treat away from as you go away from the dog. So if you start out here, you can kind of go down as you walk away from the dog. That gets the dog to come to you, and if you have treats your dog really likes, it'll take that step. Then you say good and release the treat or your marker word. At first I'm going to say good for each step, but after a while I'm going to take 2 steps before I say good. Then 3 steps. Eventually I'm going to go from here all the way to a dozen steps over there, holding the treat out in front of Ellie's lips. And when she gets over there, that's when I'm going to go ahead and say the marker word and release the treat. And I'd like you to do this maybe 6 or 8 times. So all we're doing is just basically, I keep on wanting to call you Francis. We want to do this about 6 or 8 times so the dog just kind of gets in a habit of going there. Now the second little tip that you can do is I've laid a trail of treats right here. So normally this is where Ellie gets to the point where she's like, I'm going in that direction. So what we're going to do instead is I'm going to walk over here with the Penguin, and we're just going to pretend like we're walking. I'm just going to come over here. Penguin. Good. 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 Now I've got the treats spread out about at first about every 6 to 8 inches, and then it gets to about a foot, and then now we get to about 1.5 feet, and then 2 feet. And over here, I've got a nice little cachet of treats, which Penguin didn't see. Pingy. Penguin. Oh, there you go. Pingy, right here. Penguin, right there. So eventually what's going to happen is your dog is going to get in a habit. Now first, again, we have the treats about 6 to 8 inches apart for about the first 4 or 5 treats. Then we go to about 1 foot apart. Then we go to about 1.5 feet and 2 feet. And eventually at the end, Penguin, let's flap pulling. And then at the end, we have a little pile of treats. Now, that's what we do at first. After a while, then we start making the treats. Maybe the first one is 6 inches apart, the next one is a foot apart, next one's a foot and a half, then 2 feet. Gradually, we're gonna increase the distance between those treats so that the dog has to go a little bit further. But at first, if Elly only goes and gets 2 treats and then tries to go in that direction, that means we had too big of a gap. So we wanna keep them boom, 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 so she can see them and make sure it's a nice straight line. Now, this is the sort of thing where it's helpful if you go out ahead of time and lay down the treat trail like I did before I shot this video. Now, the Guardian also has a partner who has another dog who has a lot more energy than Elly and a lot more endurance. What I might have that person do is have your partner walking now with those treats, and when you get to this corner, she starts dropping those treats and making that treat trail. Now, this has the benefit of having Elly following the dog that she knows, and she kind of is motivated to follow where they're going because she wants to hang out with that dog. And then that person is able to leave the treats down. This is LA, there's a lot of dogs that are gonna walk by. So if you go and put the treat trail down and go into your house to grab Elly and come back, there's a chance another dog might have taken those treats. So that's a nice another alternative. Now, the last little thing, I'm gonna have our camera woman stay right there, and I'm gonna pivot and come over here. Now, if we look at this street, we're essentially in the corner at the end of the street. Now, basically where Elly's Guardian lives essentially is a simulation of over there. So he's walking in the corner, and then he's continuing walking in that direction. Well, what we could do is walk just on this street. So go to the end of the street, cross the street, walk down the street, and then cross back and walk there. So you're basically making a square on your block. This is a little bit beneficial for Elly because, again, as an older dog, sometimes her mouth is, or her eyes are a little bit bigger than her legs. And so she looks for that longer walk that she wants to go on, but halfway through she loses her stamina or energy. If you're staying on your block, then you have the benefit of not having to go as far to get back home. Now, for dogs, sniffing is a great way to drain energy, and it's also stimulating, and it's something that they enjoy doing. And so the Guardian mentioned that if he walks to the end of the block and try to walk back on that same line, Elly doesn't really want to do that because she's already sniffed everything. So the key for this one is to go and cross the street and then do that loop so that way when you're walking back, you have fresh sniffs. But again, don't ever be afraid to play the find it game. So I can do it a little bit here with Miss Penguin. So let's say that Elly is kind of starting to shut down. I can show her that I have a treat and say, find it. Good. And then find it. Good. So I'm saying find it before I throw the treat. I'm throwing it in the direction I don't want the dog to go. Find it. And when the dog gets it, I say the marker word. In her case, it's good. But in Elly's case, it will be the word yes. So the idea for this, and you can also do this just by throwing the treats on the sidewalk. Yes. Although her marker word is good. So the idea for this is we're just creating momentum and helping Elly get in the habit of doing this. Now, I'm sure the Guardian, when I talked to him off camera, he said, yeah, I've used treats to get her to do this, but it's a little frustrating to do that. I'm not saying we're gonna have to do this forever with treats. Dogs get into behavior patterns and habits. The more that they do something, the more they're likely to continue doing it. In this case, Elly is probably conditioned to go across that street because she's done that multiple times. Well, now we're going to condition her to take a right and go around the short block instead of the long block. So that's why doing these exercises where you leave the treat trail or you offer the treat to the dog's nose and walk backwards and walk taking that turn, after you do that enough times, the way that Elly's brain is set up, she's just eventually going to take a right when you get to that corner. Actually, I think that corner is a left. But she's just going to get a habit of taking a left instead of crossing the street and going on the long walk that's a little bit too long for her. Well, this is my buddy Penguin. Can we get you a sit, Pengy? How about a sit? She's like, I'll sit if you have a treat. But besides that, I'm a little bit determined, like my camera person, Francis. Sit. Good. Well, this is my buddy Penguin, and these are some tips and tricks you can use if you have a dog that doesn't want to go the direction you want to walk on a walk.